Alright, welcome back to Archi Lens. Today we're gonna talk about something most property owners misunderstand. They think selling depends on the market, but actually it does not. I've seen sellers lose money inside a strong market. And also, I've seen others exit beautifully during uncertainty. Same city, same cycle, sometimes even the same community and the same project. But the issue here is completely different outcomes. And the dangerous part is, most people don't realize their weak position up until the pressure enters the system. And the problem is once the pressure enters, it is too late. And the market already knows before the owners do. Because the market does not decide your outcome. In fact, your position does. And right now, many owners in Dubai are confusing a strong market with a strong position. And those two are not the same thing. And it's a fact that a rising market can temporarily hide a weak structure, just like expansion can temporarily hide weak investors. Therefore, by the end of this video, I'm going to show you a framework. And that framework you can use yourself before deciding whether you want to sell or you don't want to sell. And this framework is applicable not just in Dubai and not just in today's market. In fact, it's applicable in any market, any cycle, and any asset type. Because the biggest mistake sellers can make is looking at the market before looking at themselves. And once you understand this framework and apply it on your position, you will know whether you control the exit or whether the market controls you. And this creates something dangerous, because by the time sellers realize their structure is weak, their negotiation power already disappeared. And suddenly now the time matters, the liquidity matters, holding cost matters, and pressure of course matters. And when we talk about the emotional side, the seller at this position is no longer negotiating calmly. In fact, they are trying to escape the pressure. That's why I think most people asking the wrong question. Most people or most owners, they ask when is the perfect time to sell. But honestly, that's not the real question. And the real question is, how much control do you still have? Think of the market like an ocean, for example. The tide moves up and moves down for everyone, but your position is the structure that you're standing on. A strong structure, of course, can survive the pressure, but a weak structure can collapse even in a relatively calm conditions. Therefore, today we are not here to analyze the tide, but we are here to test the structure underneath the seller. And this is where unfortunately many people get trapped, because they think if prices are still high, then I'm safe. But not necessarily, because markets rarely force sales directly, but pressure does. When I say pressure, I mean financial pressure, emotional pressure, liquidity pressure, time pressure. And that's unfortunately what breaks positions. So now, instead of guessing the position, you measure the position directly through the framework that I designed, and I call it the Exit Position Index, or EPI. This framework was designed to answer one question: do you control the exit, or does the market control you? And the formula is very simple. It is resources minus pressure. And the formula is EPI equals, on the resources side, 0.3 multiplies by T, plus 0.25 multiplies by C, plus 0.2 multiplies by F, plus 0.25 multiplies by L, minus, on the pressure side, 0.35 multiplied by H, plus 0.35 multiplies by U, plus 0.3 multiplies by S. Where on the resources side, T stands for time, C stands for cash, F stands for flexibility, and L stands for liquidity access. Now on the pressure side, H is holding cost pressure, U is urgency, and S is stress. And here, every variable is scored from 0 to 10. Now we'll explain the meaning of the variable. Time means how long you can comfortably wait. Cash means how much financial pressure can you absorb. Flexibility means, can you adapt if conditions change? And liquidity access means, can you access capital if needed? And holding cost pressure means, how expensive is waiting? And urgency means, how urgent or do you actually need to sell? And the stress means, how emotionally stable is your position? And the scale is from positive 5 to positive 10 is strong alignment. And from 0 to positive 5, functional fit. While from negative 5 to 0, caution zone. And from negative 10 to negative 5, like critical position. Now let's define the net score. A net positive score means your structural resources outweigh your pressure, while a negative score means the pressure has broken through your reserve. Therefore, if your score drops below -5, you are in a critical position. In other words, it is forced seller territory. And between -5 to 0, it is a weak position. In other words, limited negotiation power. And from 0 to +5, it is a functional position. And the owner here has a reasonable control. And from +5 to +10, it is a strong position. And the owners in this territory, they control timing, they control negotiation, and also they control the outcome. Now let's run a real example. A seller A approaching a handover with an impending final payment, and due to the timeline, their time horizon is short, which is 3, and their cash flow reserve are downwelling to 4. Their structural flexibility is limited, so it's 2, and their liquidity access is average, so it's 5. Let's look at their pressure. Their holding cost pressure is intense, which is 8, and of course their urgency to exit is high, which is 8 also. And their psychological stress is hitting 7. Now let's plug in the numbers into the equation. For the resources side, 0.3 times 3 is 0.9. 0.25 times 4 is 1. 0.2 times 2 is 0.4. And 0.25 times 5 is 1.25. Therefore, the resources total equals to 3.55. And now according to the formula, we need to subtract that from the pressure. And the pressure is 0.35 times 8, which is 2.8. 0.35 times 8 is another 2.8. And 0.3 times 7, which is 2.1. Therefore, the pressure is equal 7.7. And according to the formula or the equation, the final score is 3.55 minus 7.7, which is equal -4.15. Therefore, the seller A does not control the exit. In fact, the market controls the seller. And now let's compare that to seller B. Same building, same layout, same city, and same project. But their structural position is entirely different. With seller B, time is long, which is equal to 9. Cash is deep, which is equal to 8. Flexibility is high, equals to 8. And liquidity access is strong, which is equal to 9. Therefore, their internal pressure metrics are completely baseline. And his holding pressure is low, which is 3. Urgency is minimum, which is 2. And the stress does not exist, which is 2. And according to the formula, the resources equal 8.55, while the pressure is equal 2.35, and the final EPI score is equal positive 6.2. And clearly that's a completely different position. This seller B, can wait, and this seller also can negotiate, and this seller can reject offers, and that's because his position is structurally sound. Now look carefully. The difference isn't intelligence, and the difference isn't experience, and the difference isn't even the property. But here the main difference is the position. One seller needs the market, while the other seller can wait for the market, and that difference creates completely different outcome. Now imagine this scenario. You are approaching handover. In other words, a large payment is coming, and you are expecting easy liquidity, strong demand, and a premium resale exit. But now everything is changed, and the cycle slows, and buyers become very selective, and premiums almost disappeared, and suddenly the property stops feeling like an investment. Instead, it starts feeling like a pressure. Another scenario where the business of the owners slows, and their income changes, and rates are rising. Now every month holding the property reduces the flexibility, and eventually waiting start destroying the negotiation power. And there is another type of seller, and I call them the non-believer sellers. This type of seller or this person already exit mentally, not only mentally but emotionally, structurally, and psychologically. In other words, they are done. And once urgency enters the system, it starts leaking into the pricing behavior. Then comes the dangerous pressure, where the property still performs, but not enough anymore. And here the returns compresses, the cost rises, and liquidity slows, and slowly holding become inefficient. And this is exactly where conviction starts disappearing. And this explains something very critical, which is why inside the same market, you see completely different deals. And you see one seller negotiate calmly, while you see other seller accept almost anything. Not because the market changed, but because their position changed. And the issue is, most owners think the market determines their exit, but actually it does not. In fact, The market determines the opportunity, and your position determines whether you can capture it. Because market doesn't reveal prices, but they reveal pressure. And a pressure, of course, reveals structures, whether they are strong structure or weak structure. And here I need to mention that the non-believer seller is probably one of the most type of seller or people in the entire cycle. Because without them, many opportunities never appear. And in the next video, I'll show you why institutional investors watch the non-believer sellers very carefully. And through Archi Lens, we don't chase the market. In fact, we decode the structure and position within it.